Welcome to day 4 of week 4 of Urban Agoge, the hero training program for all of the rest of us. So yeah, the exercise thing is going well. The getting up early, was up before 7, out of bed before 7, bed made, water drunk. Cool. That habit's really building. Yeah. The exercise is going along. I think I may well do a gym video, even though today is technically a rest day. That's not something I really want to sort of do, really. Although, if you are, I don't think once you've done what I've been doing, that a 20-minute run should wipe you out for the whole of the next day. But your mileage may vary. Hell, I don't care if all you're doing is going out for a walk every couple of days. Just get some exercise, get used to it. So, what's today? So, Harlequin over in Australia asked me to clarify the Jordan Peterson question. So, I was aware that he was a bit of a stooge for the, I'm not going to say alt-right, I'm going to say far-right, people who want to tell other people what to do. Now, my personal politics are liberal leaning to left wing, far left in some places. I think that the power of the corporation is being overly used to destroy our planet. Not in favour of the planet we live on being destroyed just by greedy people. And in a lot of cases, this is the annoying thing, it's not greedy people even. It's not even people. It's that was inelegant, wasn't it? It's more systems that are set up to make as much money as possible for shareholders, allowing essentially personal deniability. You know, when people work for the corporation and that corporation is set up for the benefit of the shareholders, you get people who are not only just following orders, but they're not even following the orders of a person. They're following the orders of a system. It's something that I call a paperwork AI. The AI has one goal. You know, it's a set of tenets or or rules that the organisation follows to the detriment of everything else, which I think is stupid. That's not even a person, that's not even an AI you can reason with, which is insane. So essentially you've got like a playbook that says that this organisation has to make profit no matter what, and anybody that stands in the way of that profit, or the profit for the shareholders, is to be removed. And that's not even a person. That means that whoever's in favour of this kind of system is following orders that are written down and could be changed at any minute. It's not like you've even got to get to someone to say, look, this is bad. You've just got, those are the rules, which is a little too vogue for my liking, which is madness, just insanity. And I've wandered down the wrong way. This is no fun. Anyway, so yeah, as far as what people want to do, well, it depends if it affects other people. If you impose your will on someone else and what they're doing doesn't affect anybody, you know, doesn't cause any damage to anyone, then I think you've got to just leave them alone to do what they want. I've never been consciously racist. I've never been against people of new genders or anything like that. Yeah, people are people. And broadly speaking, I support anything which allows them to be that. The problem is although you can cite someone like Jordan Peterson's book, you know, the 12 rules for a better life, or whatever the hell it's called. Can't remember straight off the top of my head. I'll probably put it down here. Is that all of his stuff sounds plausible. There are a few problems. Now, getting your shit together, which is like his thing of put your house in order, is a good idea. Standing up straight, you know, manufacturing your own levels of confidence, those are good things. But like all people that are either stooges of or actively involved in very right-wing politics, it all sounds very reasonable. You know, all extremists can say things that sound reasonable, you know, but generally speaking, that's how they get you. So if anybody's been upset by me quoting a couple of things out of the 12 Rules book, you know, like get up early, tidy up. Oh, doggylets. Hold on a sec. Hello. Have you lost your person? Oh, he's back there, I think. Don't whine at me. Hello. I think they got a bit panicked because they lost you. And they were standing around, sort of like, you're another human, find mine. I used to do that until I clonked my daughter on an overhead branch. They get slightly bigger every day, so when they're big enough to actually lift the branch out, they're probably too big to carry.
I know, yeah.
See ya. So yeah, it's a case of people have good ideas and they also have rubbish ideas, and it's, you know, down to us to pick out what those are. It's not as simple as that, obviously, because if you get someone with enough of a platform, you know, saying, you know, reasonable thing, insane thing, you get essentially a populist uprising that leads to lynch mobs. So this is where you get a little bit of a fallover from democracy. You know, democracy falls over at that point. If everybody votes to do a stupid or horrible thing, you know, it's technically democracy, but a good democracy would have protections built in for people that aren't in the majority at the time. And people would seem to lose their shit over that one. Despite, I mean, the annoying thing is that all the people that want to tell you what to do are, you know, usually using religion as a reason to do that. Oh, it's against religion. But there's all sorts of grey areas, and people have to, you've got to compromise. But everybody has to compromise a little bit, you know. And every religious group, pretty much all of the major religions start off with, let's just be nice to everybody. And that's usually from a perspective of that religious group initially being in a minority. Okay, so when you've got the minority obviously wants the majority not to wipe them out because they come up with different ideas. You know, there was a time when the idea of Christianity had the equivalent of being, you know, a wacky idea, as did Judaism, as did Confucianism, as did Hinduism, being a Sikh. All of those people And arguably some still are, depending on where you live in the world. You know, the Sikhs are under a lot of pressure in northern India from local areas. The Christians are under a lot of pressure in places like Japan and Sri Lanka. You know, you've got to understand that, you know, if you travel widely enough, sooner or later you're going to be in a minority. So it makes sense to protect the minority or protect the individual, because we are at some point all going to be an individual and on our own. And you've got to be pretty short-sighted not to take that on board. So those are my politics. You know, that's not even politics. That's a kind of like a Jesus level thing. Love thy neighbour. You know? That's why if I was running a political party, I'd want everybody. That's the best political party. As little personal regulation as possible. You know, on the lines that... Oh, there's a savage drop. Check that out. That's like almost an 80-degree slope. So yeah, what is the point of being against people who are gay or trans or a different religion to you or of no religion? If you believe in God, I mean, all of those religions start off with love thy neighbour, accept them, and that's how you build communities. But we're humans just aren't capable of doing that. And I don't want to harp on about Jordan Peterson all that much, but there seems to be a hell of a lot of regulations, is do what I say type shit. And I know that, you know, every movement or every social change that you're ever going to get in a country is always going to have its detractors. And there's always going to be people within that social change that cause a problem for some people. Always. Without exception. And I personally think that the majority of what the Black Panther movement was doing in California in the 1960s and 70s, I think a lot of that was really great. They had breakfast programs, they had education for children, they were bringing up an idea of pride amongst the black community at that time. In the wake of the assassination of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, you know, people that were pushing for it, admittedly in different ways. But, you know, when you execute basically somebody that was trying to emulate the actions of Mahatma Gandhi, and Gandhi wasn't a nice guy, but he did have a point, you know, non-violent resistance to, you know, oppression. Oppression is always bad. It's always bad. You know, but the problem is that there are people who will claim that they're being oppressed when they are in fact in an oppressive minority of other people. So it is complicated. It's not black and white by any means, but there are darker shades of grey than others. So I think, you know, respecting people and trying to, you know, grant them or maintain or defend their places to be in society, despite you may not agree with what they stand for. So people can't really come out, you know, and say what they're actually against. This is the annoying thing, where we don't live in a society where somebody can go, well, you know, you're holding an archaic viewpoint, it falls down the second you analyse it, you know, and then you sort of ban them from college campuses. So, you know, if you get too into banning things, people will ban things back, and then it's like being in a playground. It's far more effective to create well-educated people and maintain their ability to discuss things and have differences of opinion with those people that they think are going to try and bring in oppressive stuff. I mean, we're already seeing terrible oppressions like that are starting to happen in America. So yeah, and I get that some people aren't strong enough to oppose those people that have harsh viewpoints and ones they don't agree with, or ones that frighten them. But that's across the board. So this is why we need heroes. We can't just go, that's bad, make it not happen, because it's always going to happen. It's been happening for, you know, they're starting to wonder whether we haven't already had other civilizations prior to, you know, something like 12,000 years ago, a massive meteorite strike hitting the Earth and wiping out an awful lot of humanity. There's some proof to that. I mean, it's not widely available. But if you deplatform people because they have a different opinion to you, and if you basically try and destroy them, then they're gonna fight back, but they're gonna do it in a much more sneaky way. They're gonna fight a guerrilla war rather than lining up and saying, these are our opinions, what do you think? You push it underground. You make it a secret society of people that want to say racist things. Whereas, you know, I personally believe that, you know, if you don't keep these discussions out in the open, and you don't, you know, if they're putting forward their champion, you know, their champion debater, their person that sounds the most reasonable, then you need champions on both sides. So if they're gonna, if say the right wing want to field Jordan Peterson in an open debate in a university that will be televised and give them a massive platform, well, you know, brothers and sisters, we need to wind up and step up to the plate. We need to find those people that are dynamite at debating. We need to find those people that are going to put the case across as simply as possible. You know, arguably Jordan Peterson is a conservative. The sad thing is that he hides a lot of the more problematic viewpoints that he has within things that sound reasonable. You know, he'll start off with things like women and men are biologically different. It's like starting off a debate with, we all know the sky is blue. You know, no one can argue with it. And once you get a no one can argue with this one moment, what you get is a no one can argue with anything moment, because Jordan Peterson is only appearing in paid for venues that aren't, you know, you're creating a David Icke situation, but with someone that's probably a little more dangerous because their stuff's a lot more plausible. You know, it's probably too difficult for me as a person to solve. I cited his books and I always put the caveat that I don't agree with everything he says, but he had a few good points. I mean, the whole make your bed, stand up straight thing, that's ancient wisdom. That's almost going back all the way back to Confucianism. And Confucianism has problems because it essentially says, know your place, which I don't really agree with. I agree with the idea of, you know, you have to have a solid foundation before you're going to do anything extraordinary. I do believe that there's probably something to be said for getting your shit together and being physically healthy before you do anything mentally strenuous. I agree with, you know, develop as thick skin as possible. Armour yourself against people that are going to dislike you, because people are going to dislike you and you will fail. There is a very good case for saying that making children compete and making everybody compete for everything is a bad idea and not a level playing field. There's a case for saying, you know, a little bit of defeat's good for you if you couch it in the right way. If you crush a team of children playing five-a-side football because they lost, and you verbally destroy them afterwards, that's not very productive. But if you teach them to analyse why they didn't win and maybe encourage them to work on the weaknesses of their game, then that's a viable thing. I don't think you should give everybody a trophy for showing up, because I think that devalues those people that actually did win on as level a playing field as you can have. But make sure the playing field's level. Allow people to excel at things. Celebrate that. Just don't denigrate the people that don't excel at this specific thing, because, you know, they're very specific things. That's just my take. Politics is difficult. Smarter people than me will need to figure things out. But if you have a strong enough set of values that are unassailable. Oh yeah, back to the Black Panthers. So the Black Panthers did some cool stuff. because I want to make this point. But in amongst their ranks, there were people that had been, earlier in their lives, amazingly dubious. And the Black Panthers is a good example because it challenges both very left-wing and very right-wing people. They're not divisive at all. A lot of people will find something in the Black Panthers that they don't like. So like Eldridge Cleaver, who was the Minister for Information for the Black Panthers, was a convicted rapist, and made all sorts of dubious claims as far as to why he performed those, to basically tried to do terrible crimes to women. And then you get the Black Panthers, which actually empowered a lot of women. Mostly the people cooking breakfast for children were men. A lot of the people running security were women. It was an amazing time. However, it was deeply flawed at its outset. It was deeply flawed when people became super paranoid about who was working for the COINTEL program on the FBI. So if you want to know more about that and understand that everything sooner or later is not going to be black and white, it's not going to be good or evil, then you probably want to watch a documentary called Vanguard of the Revolution. There's problems with everything. You can't decry someone 100% and you can't prop someone 100%. People say stupid things. People do stupid things because they're people, they're not machines. So I happen to think that regardless of what you think, the work that someone like Germaine Greer has done, yes, it's undermined by something that was said in what could be argued to be a very thoughtless way, but it's a thoughtless thing. Because we have access to the words of everybody all the time, we're now to a point where people can be completely destroyed from one comment. I say stupid shit all the time. I'd hate to be under that kind of scrutiny. But we haven't got time. We just don't. Humanity doesn't have time to dick around with this pointless shit. Especially not when we have the power of the internet. We've got the power to put forward thoughts and ideas. So the idea where, somebody says to you, and people throughout for thousands of years, put your house in order. Shore up your foundation before you try and reach for something. Understand where you are. Understand your weaknesses. Improve them if you can, or turn them on their heads if you can't. But it's, people are finding it all too easy to outright condemn people. I mean, some things you got to say, you got to go, that's a really bad thing. You could, using that commonality of understanding against me, you could probably say Harvey Weinstein's brought joy to millions by producing films, and then it turns out he's a scumbag, preying on women. But there's a whole society of things that went into allowing him to do that, that put him in a position where he basically figured that was an okay way to act, or that was something he would probably get away with. So, and I'm not saying blame society, I'm saying look at society as well. That whole men in power being able to abuse women that aren't in power but that want to access, a certain level of either fame or money or anything like that. If you commoditize sex to that point, then people will eventually just assume that commodification is okay. We need to end that. Again, the thing with Germaine Greer, I know a lot of people are going to completely freak out, and a lot of people that I know are going to say, "Whoa, you can't defend Germaine Greer." Germaine Greer basically allowed a lot of women to self-actualize and empower themselves. A lot more, than saying just being one of those people that says something against transgender people. And yeah, it was pretty hurtful. It was a stupid thing to say. It wasn't. I don't think it was as well considered as it could have been. And I think using sort of like a level of anger to sort of say you're not the same to transgender women was a bad move, because there haven't been a significant influx of transgender people that were allowed to be openly transgender in Western society, in most societies, for a very, very long time, you know, if ever. And, you know, how about kindly saying the facts aren't in, we don't know. You know, it's a new thing that stands to better research and doesn't affect how I feel about women's emancipation or women's empowerment. Would have been better. But I think if everybody examines themselves and looks into their own past, they would say that, stepping stones, they would say that they've also probably said at least 50 things in their lifetime that they could have put better, or they could have said that was kinder. You know? So everybody can be judged. You know, I'm not a Christian, but, you know, certain ideals like love thy neighbour, judge not lest ye be judged, you know, except in certain, I think there comes a time when you've got to say, no, that person's a scumbag, and fair enough. But you can't do it if, no, that person says something that I disagree with. We need to do better. We haven't got time for this us and them shit. And I'm saying that to everybody. No time. Possibly less than 50 years if we keep up the way we're going. Hence, we need heroes. We need heroes like you. I'm giving it a shot. You know? I'm trying to find it for you. You know, some people are evidently scumbags who live a life where all they do is harm other people. And that can't be tolerated. But I don't think a gay person's harming other people just by dint of being gay. I don't think an Asian person is harming other people by dint of being Asian, or a Muslim person, or a Christian person. I think we're too opinionated about what people think on a global scale, and we don't act as generously or as kindly as we might. And heroes need to be compassionate. You know, heroes need to step in where the non-heroes, you know, aren't capable of doing it. We need to understand that things are grey, and that the first step towards solving a problem is to give everybody a lot better understanding of what the actual problem is. Compassion and understanding. I don't necessarily say you can necessarily forgive everything that people do, because people do some mean shit. But it's a good place to start. You know, our planet is dying. Well, it's not dying, just becoming very, very hard to live on for a lot of people. And the only reason we get to sleep at night is we can switch off our ability to imagine other people's suffering. But now it's properly coming home. Everybody will be affected within 20 years unless we sort it out. And yes, we need to respect everybody. And yes, we need to look after those people that cannot stand on their own. And that's what being a hero is. But start off with being a bit compassionate towards somebody that holds a different viewpoint to you. There's, you know, don't immediately, because somebody's pushed you, push back twice as hard. You know, seek to understand, and seek to understand, and then seek to be understood. Find the right way. Find the right way of one of 100 ways to tell a story that will resonate with someone, and then we can make the planet a better place. You know, people of faith need to understand that other people don't have that faith, but that doesn't mean that those people don't care. That doesn't mean those people aren't trying to live a moral life, and I believe there are some absolute morals. Is what you're doing going to hurt someone? That's all you've got to ask before you do everything. Is that going to physically hurt someone? Is that going to hurt me? Is that going to destroy someone else? And if it does need to destroy someone else, what's that balance? You know, people are going to get hurt all the time. But it seems rather pointless to just, you know, wander the earth stomping all over people because of one part of their personality that you disagree with. You can just say, I disagree. And I do, frequently. And it takes courage to say, no, I don't buy that. And I don't think you're able to explain it to me, given the harm that you're trying to do. So yeah, so sorry about the sunlight in the shot. Trying not to do it, but I don't have a forward-pointing screen. So yeah, you know, yes, Jordan Peterson says some useful stuff. Yes, he's probably a bit of a stooge for the right wing. No, I don't think he's a Nazi, but I think he's aware that he now has a completely different and more lucrative career that he takes advantage of by alluding to certain right-wing propaganda. That doesn't mean to say nothing he's ever said is valuable. You know, which is very weird because it's one of his 12 rules. Listen to everybody as if they have something valuable to say that you have not heard yet. Everybody's got something they can teach somebody else. Even if that's not, you don't deem it important at the time. Everybody knows stuff that the people around them don't. Not saying everybody has a unique piece of information, of course, but most people have something that they could talk to you knowledgeably about that you don't know. And it's worth listening to all sources. That's why I'm looking at things like the 12 rules for a successful life, or that's why I'm looking at different philosophies and stuff like that. The reason those philosophies exist and have stood the test of time or have become bestsellers or things like that is because they contain some of the truth. Like an earlier talk I was giving about my mum's belief that all the religious people would get together and realise that they were mostly right, all of them. And then the rest was just details that people have made up. Russell Brand was making that. You know, Russell Brand, I find, like, occasionally I find him mildly irritating. But he said pretty much the same thing. You know, it's all in the details. Details which is stuff people made up rather than a good idea around which the main armature of being decent to one another on this planet hangs. And it's bloody difficult for us to do it. I really, really try these days. In the last month, I've tried to be much nicer to people. And believe me, people do push you to just lose your temper with them. You know, people do stupid stuff and thoughtless stuff at you. And I'm not a Christian, but the whole, do try and turn the other fucking cheek. But the problem with that is that not everybody sees the reason in being a good guy to everybody. A lot of people still believe that they have enemies, people that they've never met. If someone's literally coming for you and trying to kill you, then yes, they become by default your enemy. You either overcome them or they will overcome you in those very rare situations in life. And I'm talking really rare. I'm nearly 50. It's probably happened to me 3 times when I've had to more or less shore my brain up and go, this person is the enemy. Everybody else, they've all got their own battle to fight. And you don't know anything about them unless you know them intimately. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know why they're angry, or you don't know why they're trying to oppress you. But generally speaking, you know, I think ultimate education means that we would seek to educate someone out of their viewpoint. And you generally can. If someone holds a 2-dimensional viewpoint and you swive in with an intelligent thing to say, and you just go, right, okay, what about this then? And you flummox them, and then you open up their mind a little bit, you win. You don't have to turn them into a non-racist inside one conversation, because it's not going to happen. But you say, there are circumstances under which what you say is not true. And believing this about a person is a very bad thing. To believe a whole bunch of people are all innately bad is a stupid place to start. And it is what people that, and the people that have done the most harm in the world are the sort of people that will believe that there's black and white. And there isn't. You know, it's all about intent, it's all about the many shades of grey, it's all about who that person is, what's happened to them in their life. And maybe that war never need take place. You know, but yeah, that is a very naive viewpoint to take. But I'm not talking about it as a government. I'm not talking about it as a person that makes laws. I'm talking about it and as in your interaction between people, your opinion of people. I think people do some stupid things for their own gain. I think people do stupid things because they're frightened. of the repercussions of a tribe that they've joined suddenly turning on them. But yeah, it's up to you. That's where I'm going to leave it. You know, it is all much more complicated than it would be easy for us to believe. You know, everybody's got a piece of the puzzle.